we had an example. We had a client that had their server room in the basement, and we had been working with them. We had just taken them on and working with them to get everything in a proper rack and up off. Before that happened, we had a bunch of rain here in Georgia, which is common in the spring, and their conduit for their telecom plug, the insulation popped out, which was also in their server room.
Guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guest, Mr. Doug Bates from CMIT Solutions. And we will be diving into his story a little bit today, as well as what it is that his company does. And then, as always, some engaging insights into the technology industry. So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Doug, welcome to the Grow IT podcast.
Thank you, Treg. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
Doug, if you could start to please just formally introduce yourself and just give us a quick snippet, of your story, of your background a bit, please.
Yeah, so been an owner of CMIT Solutions of Atlanta Southern Crescent and Atlanta Northwest for about 16 years. My background is not in IT. Before that, I was 22 years in corporate sales and marketing, finishing running a $750 million global business for Tyco after Kozlowski and all his corporate malfeasances, because my background been some great companies like Lego and GE, so I'm a Six Sigma black belt and lean process certified. So done everything on the commercial side of the business, and what I learned in those opportunities and those jobs was how much money bad IT can cost when we're trying to communicate globally. Especially in the last job, we sold in 51 countries and manufactured in 28. So we had to communicate with sales teams and manufacturing teams, and when that went down, and we couldn't get the right product list or the right pricing, we burned cash. So IT seemed like a kind of a natural fit, and I love the B2B market space, and so that's how I ended up owning an IT business.
Excellent. So, like you said, it was the good merge between B2B and obviously the IT side of things. Tell me, Doug, based on your expertise, I mean, it sounds like you've been quite around, obviously up until this business. But based on your expertise, what are the current market trends that you would say that you're aware of? What ways are the wind like blowing these days?
AI, and AI.
It's a buzzword, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like real estate: location, location, location. It doesn't matter if you're a good guy or a bad guy. AI is all the rage and all the buzz, and the criminals are using it to get access and to overcome some of their shortcomings in the past. Like, you no longer get the email that says, I'm a prince in South Africa and please send me money, or right, all that stuff. Now they take 6 months worth of your emails and they throw it into AI, and they say, okay, craft an email from Doug to Treg and request this information using, nicknames and colloquialisms, and right. And so it just reads. It's so very hard to detect by reading the content anymore, where it used to be you could look for syntax errors and punctuation errors, and that's kind of a thing of the past now for the more sophisticated folks. The other thing we're seeing is a movement from hackers in cybercrime going after big companies to going after smaller companies. And the reason for that is smaller companies don't have the money invested, number one. If they get caught, the penalties are significantly less and much harder to prosecute. So now they're going broader and wider in their attack vectors than they are, these big accounts that have, millions and millions of dollars. What we're seeing is that they go after these small accounts, and again, they'll sit in there and they'll glean information, and they'll say, okay, what can they afford? And then they base the ransom or base the money request they're trying to extort on what the company can afford. And they're quite frankly, they're getting much better at getting away with it.
That's so interesting. It's actually the first time that I hear that they're rather target the smaller companies. That's definitely something new. The but
Well, yeah, if I apologize, I'm interrupting, but
no, no.
70% of small businesses will go out of business within a year with a breach, or 90% in 2 years.
What?
And so these companies that have built, 10, 15, 20-year businesses,
Hmm.
they're trying to maintain their livelihood. And so they pay to try and stay around. But if they go out of business, the cyber criminals don't care. They don't have a heart. They've got budgets to meet. It's a business. If you've seen the movie Beekeeper with Jason Statham, which is a good,
Yes.
action flick. That's reality. I mean, there's buildings that people go to work with suit and ties, and they have quotas and numbers and trying to hit that over there. It's very, very sophisticated and organized.
My word. Tell me, having said that, Doug, what would you say is the current market sentiment like?
I would say it's optimistic in the fact that, we now have a lot more enterprise level tools that we can bring to bear, to help small businesses fight off cybercriminal, protect themselves from cybercrime. But we just had an election here, and so the results, I think everybody was kind of on pins and needles the last 4, 5, 6 months on, you never know when it's an election cycle which way it's going to go, depending on what your belief and on what side's going to do what. So I think there is some optimism that the economy is going to rebound, versus what it's been over the last couple of years. So we're seeing a very optimistic client now, starting to see some people starting to put some plans in for 2025 to spend some capex and do some things in their business to put the foot back on the gas pedal. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of years for sure, because I think that just the getting that weight of the election off everybody's shoulders has freed them up to make some decisions.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. A lot of our clients on our end, the words that comes up quite often is cautiously optimistic.
Yep. Yep.
For obviously for 2025 going forward. I think this is maybe a good sign that you tell the listeners, just to explain a bit more. What is it that that CMIT? What is it that you guys do?
Well, we are a full service managed service provider, managed service security provider for small and medium businesses. So our smallest client is one employee. Our largest is 350 with 8 locations in 6 states. So we do all things, I say if it beeps or blinks, we take care of it. We have, a seasoned staff of technicians and CMIT has a network of 220 locations nationwide. So we are all things to the SMB space for IT and cyber.
I mean, and then from if you can maybe elaborate maybe on a value point of view, maybe give us an example or so of where does your company provide that value to other businesses. If you maybe want to mention like a bit of a case study or so where you guys have truly made a big difference in towards another business.
Yeah, well, Treg, there's a couple that come to top of mind. So, dealing with small and medium businesses in a local community the way we are,
Yeah.
it's important to be present. So we had an example. We had a client that had their server room in the basement, and we had been working with them. We had just taken them on and working with them to get everything in a proper rack and up off the floor. And before that happened, we had a bunch of rain here in Georgia, which is common in the spring, and their conduit for their telecom plug, the insulation popped out, which was
Yeah.
also in their server room. So the room started filling up with water.
Oh my word.
And so our technician happened to be there doing something else. They said something. He went downstairs, started moving stuff. He called me and my VP of IT. We ran over. Well, my VP of IT went over. I went to Home Depot, bought a shop vac, and
Yeah.
went over, and I was vacuuming water up as it was coming in while they were powering down the servers and moving them. And then we set up some folding tables, and within 45 minutes to an hour, we had relocated their server closet to their conference room, like on a MASH setup. So they were still up and running,
Yeah.
and got some new insulation to try and plug the hole. And needless to say, the executive director bought a rack from us so that we wouldn't have to go through that again. But I mean, that's the type of service we're able to provide because all of our, the difference for us in my market, my CMIT is all my staff are W-2 employees. They're all located here in the community. So I
Mm.
don't use a third-party help desk. I don't use a domestic or offshore phone support. All of our tickets for all of our clients are handled in our office. So we're no more than 30 minutes, 45 minutes from any one of our clients on any given day. So when there's an emergency, we can dispatch people very, very quickly. And they're wearing my CMIT Solutions shirt. They're my W-2 employee. They're not a contractor. They're not a sub. They're not a 1099. So we have a little more control over the service, or I should say, I have a little more control over the type of service we provide.
Tell me, Doug, your business, did it start out as a family business?
It didn't start out as I mean, I guess you can say it did. So my goal when I bought CMIT was CMIT is a franchise. My goal
Yeah.
was to having got off the road because as the global vice president, I lived in Hong Kong for 6 months. I traveled extensively. My kids were getting into high school and middle school. I wanted to be home.
Mm.
The recession hit. I was the last in, highest paid sales guy, got laid off. They said, "Hey, you're doing a great job, but got to make cutbacks."
Yeah.
And I wanted to control my own destiny. I wanted to be what I call happily woven into the fabric of the community. I wanted to be there for my kids. And so CMIT offered me that, and that it's B2B, which I liked. It's an annuity-based, relationship sales model, which I love because I like the long-term relationships and the ability to grow easier by just maintaining your existing clients and adding to versus having to fill the bucket every month.
Yeah.
And then I wanted the opportunity for my kids to have a soft landing place should they choose to have one when they got to that point. And my wife worked in the business with me from the beginning. She's done the books. She still does the books. So we're able to take more benefits out of the business because we both work in the business. So she's the accounting manager and I'm the president. Um, but my son, after he got drafted to play baseball out of college in an 8-year
Oh, wow.
pro career, met a girl, decided he wanted to be with her more than he wanted to play baseball, so he retired. We opened a second location. He's my partner in that location. Just bought in last month actually. And then
Yeah. Congrats.
my daughter now is our director of marketing for those two locations, working part-time for us. So she's got an Etsy shop as well. So she's a little bit of an entrepreneur as well. But so yeah, so now we're all in the business together. And so it was something that I mentioned to them early on. I said, hey, if you want, you gotta bring experience. You gotta work for somebody else for a couple of years. You gotta there's no free lunch. You're not gonna come in, nothing's gonna be handed to you. You gotta interview, you gotta produce. So they know that I'm a little old school in that regard. And
Mm.
so my son and I started having conversations probably 3 or 4 years into his baseball career, if it didn't work out, that he wanted to come in the business. And so I started making some moves and setting up some dominoes so that if he decided that way, that they could fall and he would have the opportunity to. So he worked
Yeah.
in the business for a partner for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then when I bought the partner out, and then my son bought in. So um, it's worked out. So we got a little perspective, got a little experience. He actually did some internships when he was playing baseball. When he was in working out in the off season out in Arizona, he worked for another CMIT owner out there for in the off season, getting some exposure.
Yeah.
So and everybody was like, oh, he was so close to making it. Are you disappointed? I'm like, no, because I used to talk to him once a week. Now I talk to him 20 times a day. I said, this is amazing. Absolutely love it.
So, I mean, and then if we can maybe talk about, let's step back and have a look like from a, from a 30,000 foot overview, if you don't mind, on being a founder of a company or a owner of a business, right? What mindset, Doug, would you say is, needed to be a successful, maybe president, founder, CEO, owner of a company? In your mind, what would you say? What does it take?
Well, I'll give you an analogy that I shared with my then girlfriend. We'd only been dating a couple of days, and I told her I'm looking for a woman whose mindset when it comes to marriage is the only way out is in a body bag. Divorce is
It's quite an analogy, Doug.
divorce is not an option, right? So it's the
I,
same
I
when
don't. Did you do that on the first date? So,
it was in the first week. It was pretty early. I'm a no BS kind of guy.
that's excellent. Yeah,
So, so in opening the business is the same thing. You know, we went all in.
yeah,
I didn't have a safety net. My wife wasn't working. We sold our home, lost a half a million in equity on it.
yeah.
And we just, we ate beans and weenies. And I told the kids, hey, I don't have $5 for you to go to Chick-fil-A with your friends. I,
Mm,
took your college money. You're both getting scholarships. We're going to open a business, and my goal is to try and build this legacy for you for us to be a part of and take care of the family. And the kids would answer the phone if I couldn't get to the phone fast enough because our office started in our home. And there was no way, pardon the expression, there was no way in hell, Treg, that I was going to fail with my kids watching. It just was
yeah,
not an option
yeah,
for me.
yeah,
So when people come in and I talk to other people that are looking at CMIT, I had one guy one year said, yeah, I'm going to give it 2 or 3 years and see if it works out. If not, I'll go do something else. I said, then you shouldn't do this. If
good
you
point.
think that failure is an option at some point, then you're going to
Mm,
fail. Failure was not an option for me. It just was not something that I even brokered in the
yeah,
conversation. At the time, there was one CMIT franchise that did 7 figures in revenue. And I told my wife, I said, if he can do it, I can do it. And if I can do that, then I can make enough to take care of the family. Well, now we're over 3 million in revenue, and there's over 40 CMITs that are over, in 7 figures.
yeah.
So, the market is a good market if you provide the right service, and it's been awesome for me. I love the relationships with our clients. We see them in the grocery store and in the movie theaters and at the ball fields, and I mean, I've been so terribly blessed. It's just amazing.
That sounds excellent. I'm thinking now about if you had to give some advice of important things that you've learned. Thinking about the younger generation are obviously wanting to get into this kind of space and want to enter the entrepreneurial world and breakthrough to build big companies. What important things would you say that you've learned up until now with your career? Might even be the corporate life you had before this.
Well, it's just
What's
funny. Yeah, that's a great question, Treg. And I was just having a conversation with my son-in-law this morning,
yeah,
and I told him that, one of the things that I've learned in my life is nothing worth having is ever easy. You have to work for everything that you want, and you have to sacrifice something to get it. I think one of the issues I have now, or one of the concerns I have now with the younger generations, is people are telling them that you can have everything. You can have the perfect job, you can get what you want, you can work from home if you want, you can whatever it is. And that's just not reality. The world just doesn't work that way.
yeah,
Um, and people are finding that out now. People are being, the return to the office mandates that people are complaining about. It's called a job for a reason. It's called a work for a reason. And years, centuries ago, people didn't have cushy office jobs. Their work was in the field, digging and trenching and, raising animals and I mean hard labor. So people don't understand how much easier we have it. But I was telling, like I said, my son-in-law is that if you want something and you set a goal for it, you have to put in the work. There is no shortcut. There is no easy button.
yeah,
Because Trey, you know this, you've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody
yes,
would be successful, right? And even if you look at, one of the things I celebrated with my wife, when we got to our 10-year anniversary of our business, I pulled her aside and I said, I don't often look retrospectively. I said, but do you understand how special and how blessed we are? And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, for a small business to be 1 million in revenue, anything over 1 million. In 10 years open, you're in the top one half of 1% of all small businesses. I mean, that
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
very, very, very small, success
Percentage.
factor. I
Yes.
mean, so I said, we are so unbelievably blessed, and to still be here now another 5+ years later, and twice the size we were 5 years ago, and we're going to grow again now, second generation. I mean, but it is, it's hard work. Like right now, or between the two locations, I'm spending time in both locations. I put a bed in one office so I can sleep down there when I'm in one office and drive up to the other. And
Yeah.
you
My
know, you
word.
you got to do what you got to do. And everybody's like, well, you've
Yeah.
been doing this, you're 64, you've been doing this 16 years, you should be cruising. No, that's that's old school thinking of that. Oh, when you get to 65, you retire and then you go do nothing.
Yeah.
I guess in this call, you could probably realize that I'm not a guy that's going to do nothing. Well,
Definitely not.
so
Definitely not.
doing doing this, and I've got we've got our first grandchild on the way, and so
Hey,
we've
congrats.
thank you. We've moved closer to our kids. I mean, this is what I did all that hard work for, and why I'm going to continue to do that hard work, because I'm going to take care of my family and my kids and my grandkids and the community and our clients, and that's what
Yeah.
motivates me.
It's quite profound what you just said, especially mentioning on, somebody else would tell you, hey man, why don't you sit back and relax a bit? But it's especially that attitude and that effort to make sure that things are sustainable, and not doing things along the way that said, okay, this will make our business sustainable, but knowing the fact that you need to do things the whole time to keep it sustainable, to keep it
Well,
up and running.
it's funny,
Because
I
the
had
world changes, right?
yeah, I had an awesome father-son moment not too long ago. We were talking to a client, and I was in there. My son was the lead sales guy, and one of the things I've taught him, or told him from the beginning, and told my team, is that we will fail doing this business right before we succeed doing it wrong. And he
That's well
quoted
said.
that line to the client. The guy said, "Hey, what differentiates you?" And he says, "Well, our motto is we will fail doing it right before we succeed doing it wrong." And I mean, I started to get a little emotional. It's like, oh my gosh, well,
Yeah.
number one, he is paying attention.
Yeah.
Your
That's
integrity,
awesome.
your integrity is something that you can never get back once you lose it.
Mm,
And as long as you stick to that, especially in the space that we deal in, people want people they know and they trust. And so we cannot sacrifice our integrity. And yeah, we make mistakes. And it's all about how do you manage their expectations and overcome that problem, and solve it for them and do it fairly, that
mm.
builds that legacy. And so that's what we strive to do every day. And people that are looking for to be employees don't last with us. People that want to be a part of a family, that that servant heart, they thrive with us, and that's how we've tried to build our business and our client base.
Doug, having said that, where can the listeners, where can everybody get a hold of you guys?
Well, they can find us at cmitsolutionsAtlanta.com, and reach out to us via the website, or they can call at 770-731-0824.
Excellent. Thank you so much for hopping on today. You made such a valuable contribution. There's so many things that I believe a lot of our listeners have learned here today. I think some of them might most probably made a note or two. I know I did. So thanks for your thoughts, and all the best to CMIT and to your growth. And you guys provide excellent value. All the best and good luck to you guys.
Greg, I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time and the invitation. I had a joy. It was a pleasure.
All the best. Take care. Bye now.
All right, bye.